The desert stretched endlessly under two setting suns. Purple sand sparkled like broken glass, and the cold wind carried the smell of burning metal across the empty plains. Commander Kira Voss had been searching for 6 hours when her scanner finally picked up the signal. "I found it," she said into her helmet radio. The ship went down about 2 kilometers north of here. She started running. Her boots sank into the soft sand with every step, but she pushed forward. Behind her, Lieutenant Danny Cole and 3 other rescue workers followed closely. They had received a distress call that morning. A small human ship crashing on Volanti Prime, a planet known for its harsh winters and even harsher inhabitants. The Volanti were dragon people. They had scales instead of skin, wings instead of arms, and 4 eyes that glowed like burning amber. Most of them lived in the mountain regions, far from where humans had built their small outpost. They did not like visitors. They did not like humans. They did not like anyone who's different from them. Kira reached the crash site and stopped. The ship had broken into dozens of pieces, scattered across the crystal desert like toys thrown by an angry child. Smoke rose from the largest section, where the engine had exploded on impact. Fire still burned in some places, turning the purple sand black. "Spread out," Kira ordered. "Look for survivors." Danny moved to the right, scanning the wreckage with his equipment. The other workers went left. Kira walked straight ahead, toward the main body of the ship. Her heart was beating fast. Crashes like this rarely left survivors. The impact alone was usually enough to kill everyone on board. And even if someone survived the crash, the cold would finish them soon after. She was about to give up hope when she heard it. A small sound, almost lost in the howling wind. A voice. A child's voice. Kira followed the sound around a large piece of twisted metal. What she found there made her stop in her tracks. A young dragon child sat in the sand, her emerald scales covered in dust and ash. She was small, maybe 8 years old by human counting, with wings that were still soft and see-through with youth. 4 amber eyes looked up at Kira, with an expression of pure terror and grief. But the child was not alone. In her lap lay a human man. His flight suit was torn and covered in blood. A large piece of metal had gone through his stomach, and his face was pale as snow. His eyes were closed, and his breathing was shallow and weak. Frost was starting to form on his skin from the bitter cold. The dragon child was holding him, trying to keep him warm with her small body. Tears fell from her 4 eyes, leaving wet trails through the dust on her scales. "Please," the child whispered in broken human language. "Please help him. He saved me. He pulled me from the fire when everyone else ran away. Please do not let him die." Kira knelt beside them, her hands shaking as she checked the man's vital signs. His name tag said, Pilot First Class Samuel Gray. According to the information on his suit, he was 29 years old. From a place called Wyoming on old Earth. No family. No emergency contacts. Just a simple pilot on a simple mission that had gone terribly wrong. "Danny," Kira called into her radio, her voice tight with urgency. "I need medical help here now. Priority 1. We have a survivor, but he is in bad shape." "On my way," Danny responded. Kira turned back to the dragon child. "What is your name, little one?" "Zara," the child said. "My name is Zara, and this is Samuel. He is my friend. He's my only friend in the whole universe." "How do you know him?" Zara's grip tightened on Samuel's hand. "My clan abandoned me 6 months ago. My wings were damaged in the storm, and I could not fly with them anymore. They said I was useless. They left me in the desert to die. But Samuel found me. He was working at the human outpost, and he found me crying near the water pools. He took me in. He fed me. He taught me how to speak human words. He played games with me and told me stories about Earth and the stars." Her voice broke. He was the first person who ever loved me. And now he is dying, and it is all my fault. If I had not been on that ship, he would not have stayed to save me. He would have jumped out when the others did. He would be safe. Danny arrived with the medical kit. He took one look at Samuel, and his face went pale. Kira knew what that look meant. The wound was too deep. The blood loss was too great. Even with the best medicine in the galaxy, some injuries could not be healed, but they had to try. "We need to get into the station," Danny said, already working to stop the bleeding. "If we can get him into surgery in the next hour, maybe." He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. They called for emergency transport. A small shuttle arrived within minutes, and they carefully lifted Samuel onto a stretcher. Zara refused to let go of his hand. She walked beside him, her small claws wrapped around his cold fingers, whispering words in her own dragon language that Kira could not understand. The shuttle flew fast through the darkening sky. Medical workers surrounded Samuel, injecting him with medicines and connecting him to machines that beeped and flashed with warning lights. Kira watched from the corner, her heart heavy with the knowledge of what was coming. Zara never looked away from Samuel's face, even when the machines started screaming, even when the medical workers shouted for more medicine, even when Samuel's chest stopped rising and falling and the room went quiet. "No," Zara whispered. "No, no, no. Please wake up. Please do not leave me. You promised you would never leave me. You promised." But Samuel did not wake up. His hand went limp in Zara's grip. His face relaxed into something that almost looked like peace. And just like that, he was gone. Kira moved forward and put a hand on Zara's shoulder. The dragon child was shaking so hard that her scales rattled together like wind chimes in a storm. "He gave me this," Zara said, holding up a small metal device. "Before he stopped breathing, he put it in my hands and said it was his memory keeper. He said it held everything he ever was, everything he ever loved." She looked up at Kira with those 4 amber eyes, filled with a grief too large for such a small creature to hold. "He said to keep it safe. He said as long as I had it, he would never really be gone." Outside the shuttle windows, the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, cold, distant, uncaring, and somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, a little dragon girl held the only thing left of the man who had loved her like a brother, the man who had died to save her, the man whose memory she would carry forever. 3 days passed on the space station called Horizon's Edge. 3 days of silence from the small dragon child who had lost everything she loved. 3 days of doctors and nurses trying to help her. And 3 days of Zara sitting alone in the corner of the medical room, holding the metal device against her chest like it was the most precious thing in the universe. Because to her, it was Dr. Lisa Park, who had worked with alien species for 15 years. She had seen creatures made of light and creatures made of stone. She had healed beings with 6 arms and beings with no arms at all. She thought she had seen every kind of pain that existed in the galaxy. But watching Zara broke her heart in ways she did not know were possible. The dragon child had not eaten in 2 days. She had not slept. She just sat there, staring at the wall, her small claws wrapped so tightly around the memory keeper that her scales had started to crack. Every few hours, she would activate the device and watch the recordings inside. Over and over again. The same images, the same voice, the same smile. Samuel Gray, alive and happy, talking to a camera about his days on Volanti Prime. Lisa approached slowly on the morning of the 4th day. She had brought food, a bowl of warm soup and some bread, hoping that maybe this time Zara would eat something. "Hello, Zara," she said softly, sitting down on the floor a few feet away. "Do you remember me? I helped fix your wings when you first came here. Zara's eyes moved toward her, then back to the device. She did not speak. I brought you some food. You must be hungry. I am not hungry. You need to eat something, sweetheart. Samuel would want you to take care of yourself. At the sound of his name, Zara flinched like she had been struck. Her grip on the device tightened even more. Samuel is dead, she said flatly. Samuel is gone. He left me, just like everyone else. Just like my clan. Just like my mother and father. Everyone leaves me in the end. Lisa felt tears building behind her eyes, but she pushed them down. She had to be strong. For Zara, he did not want to leave you, she said gently. He loved you. I can see that in the recordings. The way he talked about you, the way he smiled when he said your name. He loved you more than anything. Then why did he die? Zara's voice cracked, and suddenly she was crying, great heaving sobs that shook her entire body. Why did he leave me alone? I do not want to be alone anymore. I am so tired of being alone. Lisa moved closer and wrapped her arms around the small dragon. Zara was cold, so cold, like all the warmth had left her body when Samuel died. But she did not pull away. She leaned into the embrace, crying against Lisa's shoulder, her tears soaking through the fabric of the doctor's coat. They stayed like that for a long time. The station hummed quietly around them. Stars drifted past the window. And slowly, very slowly, Zara's sobs began to quiet. The device, Zara whispered finally. The memory keeper. It is all of him inside. His voice, his face, his thoughts. He recorded everything. Every day we spent together. Every game we played. Every story he told me before I went to sleep. She pulled back and looked at Lisa with those 4 amber eyes, red and swollen from crying. The humans here, she said. Everyone says they are very clever. They have machines that can heal any wound. They have medicine that can cure any disease. They can build ships that travel faster than light and create food from nothing but air and water. Lisa nodded slowly, not sure where this was going. Then can you make him function again? The dragon child asked, holding up the memory keeper with shaking hands. Can you use this to bring him back to me? All of him is in here. His memories, his feelings, his love. If you are so clever, if humans can do anything, then surely you can put him back together. Surely you can make him live again. Lisa's heart stopped. She opened her mouth to say no. To say that it was impossible. To say that death was final and there was nothing anyone could do to change that. But the words would not come. Because looking into Zara's eyes, seeing the desperate hope there, the tiny flame of belief that maybe, just maybe, the impossible could happen, she could not bring herself to destroy it. I do not know, she said honestly. I do not know if it is possible. But I promise you, Zara, I will try. I will do everything in my power to find out. Zara stared at her for a long moment. Then she held out the memory keeper, offering it to Lisa with both hands. His name is carved on the back, she said. He did it himself with a small knife he always carried. He carved a picture too, of a dragon and a human standing together. He said it was us. He said we would always be together, no matter what happened. Lisa took the device carefully, turning it over in her hands. The carving was rough, clearly made by someone who was not an artist. But there was love in every line. A dragon with soft wings. A human with a kind smile. Standing side by side under a sky full of stars. I will take care of it, Lisa promised. And I will take care of you too. Whatever happens, you will not be alone anymore. I promise. Zara nodded slowly. Then, for the first time in 3 days, she reached for the bowl of soup Lisa watched her eat, the memory keeper heavy in her hands. She had no idea if what Zara was asking was possible. She had no idea if human science could do what the dragon child believed it could. But she knew one thing for certain. She was going to find out. That night, after Zara finally fell asleep, Lisa went to her office and began to research. She read papers on artificial intelligence and consciousness transfer. She studied reports on memory reconstruction and neural mapping. She worked until her eyes burned and her head ached, searching for any hint at what she wanted to do might be possible. And slowly, piece by piece, an idea began to form. The memory keeper was not just a recording device. It was something more, something powerful, something that might, just might, hold the key to bringing Samuel Gray back from the dead, not as flesh and blood, but as something new. Something human. Lisa looked out her window at the stars, her mind racing with possibilities. Tomorrow, she would talk to the captain. Tomorrow, she would begin the impossible. For a little dragon girl who had lost everything. For a pilot who had died saving someone he loved. For the belief that humanity could do anything if they only tried hard enough. Captain Nathan Burke sat behind his desk and stared at Dr. Lisa Park like she had lost her mind. In his 11 years commanding the research station Horizon's Edge, he had heard many strange requests. Scientists wanted funding for impossible experiments. Engineers wanted permission to build dangerous machines. Politicians wanted him to bend rules that existed for very good reasons. But no one had ever asked him to bring someone back from the dead. "Let me make sure I understand you correctly," he said slowly, rubbing his forehead with one hand. "You want to use station resources, station time, and station personnel to try and rebuild the consciousness of a dead pilot? Based on recordings stored in a personal data device?" Lisa nodded. She had not slept in 2 days, and dark circles hung under her eyes. But her voice was steady and strong. "The memory keeper is not a normal recording device, Captain. It is a neural imprint scanner. Military issue, older model, but still very powerful. Every time Samuel made a recording, it captured more than just his words. It captured his brain patterns, his emotional state, his thought processes, everything that made him who he was." Nathan leaned back in his chair. "And you think you can use this information to create what, exactly? A robot that thinks it is Samuel Gray? Not a robot. A reconstructed consciousness. A digital mind built from thousands of memory fragments, housed in a synthetic body that looks and moves like a human. It would not be perfect. There would be gaps, missing pieces that we could never recover. But it would be him, or at least close enough to matter." The captain was quiet for a long moment. Outside his window, a cargo ship drifted slowly past, its lights blinking in the darkness. Stars stretched endlessly beyond it, cold and distant and full of secrets that humans were only beginning to understand. "Even if this were possible," Nathan said finally, "why should we do it? We have hundreds of projects competing for resources. Medical research that could save thousands of lives. Engineering developments that could improve travel across the galaxy. Why should we spend our limited time and money on bringing back one man?" Lisa had expected this question. She had been preparing her answer all night. "Because of what it would mean," she said. "Not just for Zara, although she is reason enough. But for everyone. For humanity. For our entire species and our place in the galaxy." She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the same stars the captain had been watching. "Other species look at us and wonder why we have spread so far, so fast. We are not the strongest. We are not the smartest. We do not live the longest or have the most advanced technology. But we have something that no other species has. We have stubbornness. We have hope. We have the absolute refusal to accept that anything is truly impossible." She turned back to face him. "When someone tells a human that something cannot be done, we do it anyway. When the universe says no, we find a way to make it say yes. That is who we are. That is what makes us special. And if we can do this, if we can bring back someone who has died, even in a limited way, it will prove to every species in the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of. Nathan said nothing. His face was impossible to read. There is a little girl downstairs, Lisa continued, her voice softening. A dragon child who lost the only person who ever loved her. She asked me if humans could make Samuel function again. She asked me because she believes in us. She believes that we can do the impossible. And I do not want to tell her she is wrong. The captain stood up slowly. He walked to the window and stood beside Lisa, both of them looking out at the endless darkness. My daughter died when she was 12, he said quietly. A disease that our medicine could not cure. I would have given anything, everything to bring her back. But I could not. No one could. Lisa held her breath. If someone had come to me then, Nathan continued, and told me there was a chance, even a small chance, to see her again, I would have done anything to make it happen. I would have moved mountains. I would have crossed galaxies. I would have torn apart the fabric of reality itself. He turned to look at Lisa. You have 6 months, he said, and whatever resources you need. Build your team. Start your research. Do whatever it takes. Lisa felt tears spilling down her cheeks. Thank you, Captain. Thank you so much. Do not thank me yet. His voice was heavy with warning. This could fail. It probably will fail. And if it does, that little girl is going to have her heart broken all over again. Are you prepared for that? Yes, Lisa said, even though she was not sure if it was true. I am prepared. Then get to work. And Dr. Park? I want updates every week. If this starts to look truly impossible, I need to know before we go too far. Lisa nodded and turned to leave. At the door, she paused. Captain? Why did you say yes? You do not usually approve projects this risky. Nathan smiled sadly. Because you were right about what makes humanity special. We do not give up. We do not accept defeat. We keep fighting even when everyone tells us to stop. He looked back out the window. And because somewhere out there, in whatever comes after death, I like to think my daughter is watching. And I want her to be proud of what her species can do. Lisa left the office with her heart full of something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. Real hope. Not the small, careful hope that protected against disappointment, but the wild, dangerous hope that could change the world. She went straight to the medical bay where Zara was waiting. The dragon child looked up as she entered, her 4 eyes full of questions. The captain said yes, Lisa told her. We are going to try. Zara did not speak. She did not need to. The light that came into her eyes was answer enough. She threw herself at Lisa, wrapping her small wings around her in a tight embrace. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Lisa held her close and looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, a dead pilot's memories were waiting to be reborn, and humanity was going to make it. Happened no matter what it took, no matter how impossible it seemed, because that was what humans did. They found a way. Always. They called the project Phoenix, after the mythical bird that could be born again from its own ashes. It was a fitting name for what they were trying to do. Dr. Ethan Ross was the first person Lisa recruited. He was the station's expert on artificial intelligence, a quiet man with gentle hands and a mind that could solve problems most people could not even understand. When Lisa explained what she wanted to do, he did not laugh or tell her it was impossible. He just nodded slowly and said, "Let me see the memory keeper." He spent 3 days studying the device, taking it apart piece by piece and putting it back together again. On the 4th day, he came to Lisa's office with wide eyes and trembling hands. "This is not just a recording device," he said. This is a complete neural mapping system. Every time Samuel made an entry, it scanned his entire brain and stored the patterns. There are thousands of entries here, thousands of snapshots of his consciousness spread across 6 months of his life. Lisa leaned forward. Can you use them? I think so. It will not be easy. The data is fragmented and incomplete. There are gaps where memory should be. But if I can build a processor powerful enough to handle the information, and if I can write an algorithm smart enough to fill in the missing pieces, then yes, I think I can rebuild him. Engineer Amy Liu joined the team next. She was small and fierce, with calloused hands and oil stains that never quite washed out of her clothes. Her job was to build the body that would house Samuel's reconstructed mind. It needs to be human, Lisa told her. As human as possible. For Zara's sake, it needs to look like him and move like him and feel like him. Amy studied the photographs and videos of Samuel for weeks. She measured every detail of his face, every proportion of his body, every way he moved and gestured when he talked. Then she began to build. The synthetic body took shape slowly in her workshop. Artificial muscles made of smart materials that could contract and relax like real flesh. A skeleton of lightweight metal that was stronger than bone. Skin that felt warm to the touch and could express emotions through subtle movements. Eyes that could see and ears that could hear, and a mouth that could smile. It was not perfect. Amy knew it would never be perfect. But when she finally attached Samuel's face, reconstructed from thousands of images, she felt something catch in her throat. He looked so real. So alive. So ready to come home. Nurse Jackie Chan handled the hardest part of the project. Her job was to work with Zara, to collect every memory the dragon child had of Samuel and feed them into the reconstruction algorithm. Every day, she sat with Zara in a small room and asked her questions. What games did you play together? What stories did he tell you? What made him laugh? What made him sad? What did his voice sound like when he said your name? At first, Zara could barely speak without crying. The memories were too fresh, too painful. But slowly, as the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, something changed. Talking about Samuel stopped hurting so much. Instead, it started to feel like keeping him alive. Like every story she shared was another piece of him that would never be forgotten. He used to sing to me, Zara said one day, her voice soft with remembering. Old Earth songs that he learned from his grandmother. He did not have a good voice, but I loved it anyway. It made me feel safe. Jackie wrote everything down. Every detail, every memory, every tiny piece of Samuel that lived on in Zara's heart, and the algorithm grew stronger. On day 112, Ethan finished the quantum processor. It was a beautiful thing, humming with power, capable of calculations that would take a normal computer millions of years. He connected it to the memory keeper and began the reconstruction. It did not work at first. The consciousness that emerged was confused and broken, unable to hold itself together for more than a few seconds at a time. Samuel's fragments would flash into existence, speak a few words, and then dissolve into static. But Ethan did not give up. He adjusted the algorithm. He refined the processor. He tried again and again and again, night after night, until his eyes burned and his hands shook from exhaustion. On day 147, something changed. The consciousness stabilized. It held together for a full minute, then 5 minutes, then an hour. It began to speak in Samuel's voice, to remember things that Samuel had known, to express emotions that Samuel had felt. It was not complete. There were still gaps, still moments of confusion and uncertainty. But it was him. Somehow, impossibly, it was him. I think we are ready, Ethan said on day 163. His voice was hoarse from weeks of sleepless nights, but his eyes were bright with hope. "We should try connecting the consciousness to the body." The team gathered in the main laboratory. Amy's synthetic body lay on a table in the center of the room, connected to dozens of machines and monitors. The quantum processor hummed beside it, ready to transfer Samuel's rebuilt mind into its new home. Lisa looked at her team. Ethan, exhausted but determined. Amy, proud of what she had built. Jackie, clutching her notes like they were sacred texts. And Zara, standing in the doorway, her 4 eyes wide with hope and fear. "Whatever happens next," Lisa said, "I want you all to know that I am proud of what we have done here. We took on something impossible, and we did not give up. That is what humanity is all about." She nodded to Ethan Dodd. He pressed the button. The machines hummed louder. Lights flickered across the monitors. Data streamed from the processor to the body in a rushing river of information. For one terrible moment, nothing happened. Then the synthetic chest began to rise and fall. The synthetic fingers twitched, and the synthetic eyes opened. They were blue. The exact shade of blue that Samuel's had been. Amy had gotten it perfect. The consciousness looked around the room slowly, taking in the faces of the people who had brought him back. His gaze moved from Lisa to Ethan to Amy to Jackie, and finally to the small dragon girl standing in the doorway. "Zara?" His voice was rough and mechanical, not quite right, but the recognition in it was unmistakable. The love, the joy. Zara did not speak. She just ran. She threw herself onto the table and wrapped her wings around the synthetic body, crying so hard that her scales shook. And slowly, hesitantly, like he was learning how to use his arms for the first time, Samuel wrapped his arms around her too. "I am here," he said softly. "I came back, just like I promised." Lisa watched them hold each other, and for the first time in 163 days, she let herself cry. They had done it. They had done the impossible. Humanity had found a way. The first thing Samuel too saw when he opened his eyes was a ceiling of white tiles and bright lights. The second thing he saw was a dragon with emerald scales and 4 amber eyes, looking at him like he was the most wonderful thing in the universe. "Samuel," Zara whispered. "You came back." He tried to speak, but his voice came out wrong. It was rough and strange, like he was speaking through a machine, which, he realized slowly, he was, because he was a machine now, or something close to it. But none of that mattered when Zara threw herself into his arms. She was warm against his synthetic skin. He could feel the rapid beating of her heart, the trembling of her wings, the tears falling from her eyes onto his new body. And even though he knew he was different now, even though he knew he was not the same Samuel who had died on that shuttle 6 months ago, holding Zara felt exactly right. "I missed you," he said, and his voice sounded more natural this time, more like himself. "I missed you too." Zara pulled back and looked at him with those 4 beautiful eyes. "I kept your memory keeper safe, just like you asked. I watched the recordings every day. I never forgot you. Not for 1 second." Samuel reached up and touched her face with his new fingers. They were made of metal and synthetic skin, but they could feel things. The smoothness of her scales, the warmth of her tears, the softness of her cheek. "I remember," he said. "I remember the crystal plains. I remember teaching you card games. I remember the glowing fish we used to catch in the underground rivers." Zara laughed through her tears. "You always let me win at cards." "I did not let you win. You cheated. I never cheated. You made up new rules every time you started losing. That is called being creative." Samuel laughed, and it was the most beautiful sound Zara had ever heard. It was not quite the same as before. There was a mechanical edge to it, a slight wrongness that she could not ignore. But it was his laugh, his joy, his love. He was back, The days that followed were strange and wonderful. Samuel had to learn how to use his new body, how to walk and talk and move in ways that felt natural. Sometimes his arms did not do what he wanted them to do. Sometimes his legs gave out for no reason. Sometimes his voice came out garbled and broken, like a radio with bad reception. But Zara was always there. She walked beside him when he practiced moving. She talked to him when his voice failed. She held his hand during the hard moments and celebrated with him during the good ones. Lisa watched them from a distance, her heart full of an emotion she could not quite name. Pride, maybe. Or hope. Or something bigger than both. Do you think he is really Samuel? Jackie asked one evening as they stood together in the observation room. Or is he just a copy? A very good fake? Lisa had asked herself the same question 100 times. I do not know, she admitted. He has Samuel's memories, Samuel's feelings, Samuel's love for Zara, but he also knows that he is made of metal and algorithms. He knows that the original Samuel is dead and gone. Does it matter? Lisa thought about it for a long time before answering. I think what matters is what he does with the life he has been given. If he loves Zara, if he protects her, if he makes her happy, then maybe it does not matter whether he is the real Samuel or not. Maybe what matters is that he is here. On the 14th day after his rebirth, Samuel went to find Lisa. He was walking normally now, moving with the easy confidence of someone who had finally grown comfortable in their own skin. Or, in his case, synthetic skin. I want to thank you, he said, for bringing me back, for not giving up when everyone said it was impossible. Lisa smiled. You do not need to thank me. Seeing you with Zara is all the thanks I need. Samuel nodded slowly. Then his expression grew serious. I need to ask you something. Something that has been bothering me since I woke up. What is it? Am I really him? Samuel's blue eyes met hers. Am I really Samuel Gray? Or am I just a machine that thinks it is Samuel Gray? A collection of programs and data pretending to be human? Lisa had expected this question. She had been dreading it. What do you think? She asked. Samuel was quiet for a long moment. He looked out the window at the stars, at the endless darkness that stretched between worlds. I think, he said slowly, that I have all of Samuel's memories. His experiences. His feelings. I remember falling in love with a broken little dragon who needed someone to care about her. I remember dying to save her. I remember the pain and the fear and the peace that came at the end. He turned back to face Lisa. But I also know that I am different. I will never grow old. I will never get sick. I will never die, unless something destroys this body. I am something new, something that has never existed before. Does that scare you? Sometimes. Samuel smiled, and there was a sadness in it that made Lisa's heart ache. But then I think about Zara. I think about how she looked when she saw me wake up. I think about how she holds my hand when we walk through the station. I realize that it does not matter what I am. What matters is what I can do, who I can love, what I can give to the people around me. He put his hand on Lisa's shoulder. Humanity created me, he said. They built me from memories and algorithms and hope. They refused to accept that death was the end. And because of that, I am here. I am alive, in whatever way a thing like me can be alive. And I get to spend the rest of my existence loving a little dragon girl who deserves all the love in the universe. Lisa felt tears building in her eyes. That sounds like a pretty good existence to me. It is. Samuel looked out the window one last time. It really is. That night, Zara fell asleep in Samuel's arms for the first time since he came back. She was curled against his chest, her wings folded around them both like a blanket. Her breathing slow and peaceful. Samuel held her gently and watched the stars drift past the window. He was not the man who had died on that shuttle 6 months ago. He knew that. He would never be that man again. But he was something new. Something made of love and stubbornness and the absolute refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible. He was human, in all the ways that mattered. And that was enough. Outside the window, the galaxy stretched on forever. 1 billion stars. 1 trillion worlds. Countless species wondering what made humanity special. What drove them to spread across the cosmos like a fire that could not be contained? The answer was simple. Humans never gave up. They never stopped believing. They never accepted that the impossible could not be made possible. And somewhere, on a small space station, circling a distant star, a synthetic man held a dragon child in his arms and proved it once again. This was humanity. This was who they were. And the stars themselves would remember.